what is it that I want, and how do I make myself available in life for that to happen? And it's kind of when we talk about generosity, we talk about dana, we talk about giving, and one of the things that we know part of dana in Buddhist teaching is also receiving, right? Part of dana is receiving, because if other folks want to practice generosity by giving of themselves and giving love and giving sex and giving compassion, somebody has to be there receiving that. And so a real act of generosity is to figure out in life how we can be available for the gifts of compassion and love and intimacy from other people. So we sometimes hear people in our community or on television shows and so forth talking about they have a fear of intimacy, or that they have a sexual desire disorder. That's actually a diagnosis these days. And it almost gets made light of, like, I have a fear of intimacy, or I don't want intimacy. And I would like to suggest that part of our compassion is really working with that. Because a fear of intimacy is oftentimes an impediment to other people practicing intimacy with us. So, last piece I want to talk about, and then open up so we can all chat with each other a bit, is just the notion of sexual addiction, and what happens when our wiring gets crossed. What happens when our need, the biochemical need in our brain, and we're going to talk about that a couple times this month, but what happens when the wiring is messed up, and you spend all day long, or way too much. So a simple definition is when the pursuit of sex or when the sexual behavior impacts your, what we call, activities of daily living. So if the pursuit of sex has caused you to lose a job, or to lose relationships, to become distant from your friends, to need other chemicals, alcohol and other drugs, to sustain that level of behavior and level of interest, there is help available. That's the most important thing to know. But again, it requires two things. One is a level of self-awareness, because we have to be at a place where we can say, and we've all had vacations or something at some point in our life probably. I'm wearing a t-shirt that says Provincetown, and it didn't happen this year because I'm old and I just bought a t-shirt. At a different point in my life, for those who know, Provincetown is a resort on the East Coast. And you would arrive in Provincetown when the weekend started, Wednesday afternoon. And you would leave on Sunday. And if you slept while you were there, it really was considered a waste of time. It has scenic places up and down a street called Commercial Street, one of which is called the Dick Dock, still called that. And so, everybody's had a vacation or a moment in life where you felt a little bit out of control. And what's called for in those times is our ability to have self-awareness, to say, wow, okay, so I just sort of had a 72-hour period where I was, feeling really frisky and sort of put off the work I was supposed to be doing, or didn't do the writing I was supposed to be doing, or, missed my lunch with Tom or whatever. And that's a kind of behavior that's, we've all had those moments. And again, with compassion, we treat ourselves, but that happens. But when it becomes an impediment to your daily living, and like most addictions, the issue is if you've tried to stop and can't, or if you stopped and started again when it wasn't good for you, when it's impacting your life, you need to be able to bring a level of self-awareness. Well, because it's an addiction, sometimes that self-awareness isn't forthcoming. And so then the issue is, who's in your life? How have we taken care through Sangha and community and family, so that when things get out of control, there's somebody there who can compassionately put an arm around us and steer us back to a safe place where we can then bring our self-awareness to light. So the kind of conversation that we're about to have here, and the conversations that you have together every Sunday, and in book club, and in your fellowship, as you move through life, are critically important. Sex has meaning, mostly good. The words for sex and the definitions of sex and how we describe sex have meaning, mostly coming from the outside world, and we get to bring compassion and loving kindness to that so that it makes sense for us and those people with whom we deal. And then we get to choose how in life that we're going to be present for our needs and our desires in a way that builds safe and responsible community. And that's what this is about. We have a chance to talk to each other about what it all means, and we get to say that by and large it should be a good experience, and it should be about fun, or it should be about intimacy, or it should be about connection. Everybody has their definition. But when it gets to be about obsession, then we should have some tools built to help us come back to a place that feels safer and better. So I think I do want to open it up a little bit, but I think the takeaway message is that we get to take care of ourselves and each other. That sex is, like many other parts of life, that can be confusing and erotic and scary and wonderful, and trying to find that balance that our practice gives us. And so I just want to have everyone hear the words of, this is a metta of self-compassion. It says, may I love myself just as I am. May I be happy and free from suffering. May I keep myself free from enmity, affliction, and anxiety. May I be truly happy. May my happiness continue to grow. May I be free from sorrow. May I be free from physical suffering. May I care for myself with ease. May I love and be loved. May I find peace in an uncertain world. May I live in peace without too much attachment or too much aversion. May I remember that I have choices. May I remember that all things, even my troubles, have a beginning and an end. May I love myself just as I am. So, yes.
I'm going to be turning the camera off so people feel very comfortable asking questions and having a discussion. But I just wanted to ask one question on camera because I think it might be helpful. A couple minutes ago you said something about if you want to talk to someone about sexual obsessions or sexual addictions, or is help out there, could you, off the top of your head, a couple of resources where people could either call or on the web? Or
most marriage and family therapists have been trained to deal with sexual addiction. And also the notion, when I said sexual desire dysfunction, some folks might be thinking that that means that in your desires, and it could mean that for us, right? What that actually means in terms of the diagnosis and the DSM and the diagnostic code is that you're not having sexual desires anymore. So it's sort of back to that anorexic thing. But anywhere along that line that it doesn't feel good, right? So that's, a big takeaway message is sex should feel good. It should feel good in your brain. It should feel good in whatever bodily parts are involved in it. And it should feel good the next day when we show up, as Buddhists, and get quiet and get present. If your sex is tied to shame or guilt, then I would say talk to somebody. And it doesn't have to be a therapist in the beginning. Just talk to somebody else to figure out where there's feelings of shame or guilt. As I said, I always make fun. I was raised Irish Catholic, so Sister Mary Wilhelmina is right here in the back of my head. Most times when I have sex, which really makes things last a lot longer sometimes. But that's another training for later. But talk to somebody. So marriage and family therapists are all trained to do that. In our community, New Leaf, which still actually is operating, in spite of what the newspaper said the other day, there's some really good therapists at New Leaf, and there are some other places. And most of you have my phone number from the list here. You can always call me. And I'm not doing private therapy at the moment with anybody besides who I've already got, but I can certainly refer you to someone who would.
Thank you.